The title of this presentation is National Survey of Cow-Calf Producers' Beliefs about Traceability. Traceability within the beef industry can be important for verification of animal health as well as marketing purposes. However, this issue has been highly scrutinized because current U.S. systems lack a clear identity, and in turn, the functions served by these systems have been less successful than initially intended. The administration of the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA, tried to implement the National Identification System. However, participation in the National Identification System was less than desired at approximately 37%. Earlier this year, USDA decided to no longer fund NAIS and move to a more flexible framework led by individual states and supported by the USDA. However, challenges still exist in taking the views of beef industry participants into consideration when designing and implementing these traceability systems. And this is especially important for the cow-calf sector, as they are the first player in the beef supply chain. This study was done in collaboration with Dr. Glenn Tonzer, the livestock marketing economist at Kansas State University. The overriding objective of this study was to determine the link between cow-calf producer participation in NAIS and their perceptions regarding traceability. More specifically, this study involved determining the characteristics of producers and their operations that registered their premise in NAIS, identifying what producers felt were the most important functions traceability systems should serve, for example, increasing consumer confidence, and identifying concerns and views that may cause non-participation, such as cost. To help answer these questions, we surveyed 2,000 cow-calf producers in collaboration with Beef Magazine. We had over a 30% response rate, which provided a good national sample. The following questions provide a sample of what we asked producers. A complete set of questions and results are provided in fact sheets and journal articles available on the Ag Manager website. First, we asked producers, are your operations premise currently registered with USDA in the National Identification System? Next, we asked producers, in designing a national individual animal traceability system, how important is increasing consumer confidence? And we allow producers to answer from entirely unimportant to important. Next, we asked them, in designing a national individual animal traceability system, how concerned are you regarding cost to the participating producer? Again, we allowed them to answer from entirely unconcerned to very concerned. And finally, a great deal of controversy has developed in response to the country of origin labeling, or COOL law. There has been an argument in the industry that individual animal traceability is unnecessary if COOL were implemented nationally. We asked producers this question to gauge their level of agreement. The following slides represent results from our economic models. We found that producer and operation characteristics have significant effects on whether producers decided to register their premise in the National Identification System. Membership in the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, or NCBA, increased producers' likelihood of registering their premise, while membership in the Ranchers and Cattlemen's Action Legal Fund, or more commonly referred to as RCAF, decreased producers' likelihood of registering their premise. Producers using local auctions to market their cattle were less likely to register their premise. So moving forward, governing agencies need to design and promote programs that are more geared towards producers in this large segment. Producers using individual or group identification were more likely to register their premise in the National Identification System, while producers using no identification were less likely to register their premise. Finally, larger operations identified by increased labor requirements and increased herd sizes are less likely to have registered their premise. This may be due to the perception that additional costs associated with the National Identification System. Likely producers who did not have their premises registered believe investment necessary to adopt NAIS practices were too risky under voluntary adoption. 67% of producers thought that increasing consumer confidence was important or very important when designing traceability systems. However, membership in RCAF, producers who had their premises registered in the National Identification System, and producers using local auctions were less likely to agree that increasing consumer confidence was important or very important. 66% of producers felt cost to the participating producer is of concern when designing a traceability system. Membership in NCBA or RCAF, producers using local auctions, and larger operations were especially concerned with cost. Although large operations indicate a concern with cost, their relative cost is likely less because economies of size have been shown to exist, as larger operations have a lower per animal cost compared to the smallest operations. The National Identification System and other proposed systems are not country of origin labeling systems. While there are some similarities, the information requirements for the National Identification System and related programs were different from the requirements of country of origin labeling. We found that 50% of producers agreed that if country of origin labeling was implemented nationally, traceability would be unnecessary. Membership in NCBA decreased the likelihood of producers agreeing with this statement, while membership in RCAF increased the likelihood of agreement. While producers using individual or group identification likely did not agree with this statement. And finally, the use of no identification increased the likelihood of producers agreeing with this statement. To summarize our results, cow-calf producers are duly concerned with marketability and costs when implementing traceability system. So moving forward, promotion needs to emphasize the ability of traceability systems and thus eliminate the uncertainty regarding the possible benefits. Furthermore, indicating how traceability practices can become part of a business may reassure industry participants and increase participation rates. Finally, promotion of traceability systems should emphasize that COOL is a marketing tool and that COOL and traceability can complement each other in the industry. For more information, please see the Ag Manager website.